This will not be shown on Belarusian television. The police officers broke my right arm. Yes, I confirm it really is. But this is more and more talked about on the streets. Lawlessness of people in uniform. And without them. Only the most interesting and shocking moments from the life of those who are faced with the realities of the Belarusian law enforcement system. Right now on the Nexta channel. This is a blow to the whole system. The number of police officers per 100,000 population in European countries, according to the UN, on average ranges from 300 to 500 people. For some reason, the exact number of employees in Belarus is classified. Once the Ministry of Internal Affairs mentioned that there are only 400 out of 100,000, but objective estimates give the number 3 times more. 1442 policemen per 100,000 of the population. An absolute record, however. In the European Safety Index, according to the Numbeo version, we are in 21st place, that is, we are safe just like in Croatia, Holland, Czech Republic or Romania. There is an opinion that the rather low crime rate in Belarus is due to the fact that most of the criminals already work in the police. Is it so? Guys, miliaries are breaking up to me. Shouted the employee. On the ground, face down, hands behind your back. Grodno City on November 7th, day of the October Revolution, which is celebrated at the state level only by Belarus and unrecognized Transnistria. And since it is possible to celebrate, activists came to the main square of the city with the same slogan of October, but after a few minutes policemen approached them. You are detained. Whether detained or not, you need to clarify by phone. The answer is received. Not allowed, then it is impossible. This is not a meeting, this is a holiday. On what basis are you detaining us? We are happy. But what's the difference on the basis of what? They said to detain, then. You will be detained. You don't have the right. I will not. I will not. That's why we pay our taxes from our wall. It happens everywhere. You judge the country and the entire police by one situation, either stupid or blind will say. Here is a video from another city of Brest, where people peacefully come out to the main square of the city every Sunday to feed the pigeons and discuss the construction of harmful of the battery plant. The name of the regional Werner Anatoly Lisa is also called, but another fox comes instead of him. And this turns out to be also illegal. When they were brought to the Lenin police station, Samasuk came in civilian uniform and said hello, how are you? So, with malice asked. Says how do you feel about the cold water? In Mukovets? When they held me, they did not know what to show me, they ran for an hour and a half. Samasuk created a day off, a meeting about the doll. People came in there laughing, Judge Semenchuk. Just twirled at our temples. What could be here? Judge for a doll? Everything happens for the first time. However, why common sense for those who have enough physical haya? Police detained the Bolera. Yesterday, during the arrest, the police officers wrung my hands like this. Broke my right arm. Five officers were not enough to professionally detain a particularly vicious hooligan who tea drunk with a man whom they didn't want to in the casino. He didn't hide, didn't run away. So why did you handcuff him? But all the actions of the police are legitimate. In 99% of cases the court decides. But then why the employees of the police so afraid of video cameras? After all, an excel of their well-oiled and impeccable work would inspire many who are still thinking about becoming a policeman? Brest blogger Sergei Petrukin tells about such cases of abuse of office by police officers. On the channel People's Reporter. District. Police Department Maloritsky ROVD opened a criminal case for theft, and now they want to dismiss retroactively. Wounzer blogger also reported the detention of district police officers from the Lenin District Police Department of Brest, which for a long time was squeezed from citizens' mobile phones, laptop and money, and even apartments. Prior to this, the blogger also reported classified information about the dismissal of 19 precinct police officers from the Pinsk ROVD for falsifying protocols and other imitation of violent activity. According to sources, the precinct officers made fake protocols for moonshine, hung them on those serving sentences, who left for Russia and other dead souls. The evidence was done as follows. The water was mixed with flour, photographed and attached to the protocols. But as usual, stars and awards received bonuses. 48 officials involved in this circus received disciplinary sanctions. We follow the events and make them public, writes Sergei Petrukin. And for this publicity, the blogger is constantly persecuted. As expected, they humiliated me, handcuffed me, put me on my knees, the elder sat on my back. They were all wearing masks and I think it gives them pleasure. Brest, rest on your own plot with barbecue and a company of friends would have ended for Sergei Yaros just like most people, peacefully and quietly. If the neighbor had not called the police because of the supposedly loud music. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the gate opens, 2 police officers, the district police officer Georgi Osinkin and the police driver, enter. Then the driver took out his phone and started it first, not as imperceptibly as he wanted to do, but I don't remember who. Shouted, "Why are you filming me?" We all immediately fey unpleasant, as it was because he came home and started this video filming. It angered us and we tee up, began to tell them to leave. The policeman left. The son closed the gate on the latch. He went into the house and turned off the music, and friend Begashir went to the toy room and then through the window he saw that Osinkin was sitting on the fence with a pistol in his hand. I was in the house, there were blows in the bathroom. I looked out the window, a man was sitting there and uncovered his pistol. Our policeman Osinkin was sitting here with a pistol in his hand. I didn't get it. It's funny at first, and then it's not funny when I saw him raise his hand above him. I walked away from the window and heard a shot. Well then it was no longer funny at all. And they burst into the house and the guys put handcuffs, sprayed 3 times with a can of gas into their eyes and started beating. As a resu, my son received 3 broken ribs and 24 injuries. First beaten, and then opened a criminal case against the victim for resisting police officers. Now the man is being tried. Resistance to the police, sticks hitting, injury uniforms appeared much later, after 9 months. After the administrative case of anything like speech and did not. From what I saw justice that our Belarusian police did not have people beating, so my son filed criminal case. Since October 15, he was generally locked up in a pre-trial detention center, and now my child has been in a pre-trial detention center for a month. They even don't allow me to meet him. But even then some will say that this is an out of the ordinary case. Then open your eyes even wider and get ready. In sworn militiamen illegally detained and Beat a man and then cut out data from CCTV cameras. He was all beaten, his nose was all broken, swollen, covered in blood. His eyes were watering, it was very hard to breathe. Instead of an apology, the victim was dragged to court. Allegedly he also resisted the police. The son was summoned to court for disobedience under Article 23.4. Something suspiciously many people resist the police. Fortunately this story ended well. The court, which is a rarity for the Belarusian realities, defended the beaten one. True, the police did not draw any conclusions for themselves, and I emphasize the police officers who were there, that we are raising such little sons, and then people like you do not detain them for anything, and even beat them, use physical force, to which one of them said, "We beat them, and we will beat them. Let's put things in order and deal with each." Another story, Minsk on the evening of October 16, a company of young people was resting in one of the cafes. On the way home on the street, friends in a playful manner began to fight, demonstrating their sports skills. Some of the passers-by mistook it for a real fight and called the police. Resu. Broken nose, severe bruises in the ribs. They used force, handcuffed me from behind, hung them on a circle. The sergeant struck. At least 3 kicks while dangling. I asked to call a doctor. To all my requests they simply answered, "You will not die." Until now, my hands do not work at all. I cannot button myself, my spouse helps. It was like this and we will only get stronger in the future. "If you are a bitch, do not sign a confession, then perhaps your daughter will die," said investigator Krivashev to a woman who was detained on a statement from a women's clothing store. Supposedly she stole dresses. I explained that I would not sign his documents. He said, "If you are a bitch, do not sign the documents, then I will simply destroy you. You will not see anyone, I will put you in Zodino for 10 years. He hit me. He sat in front of me and then tee up and hit me several times that I had to sign his papers. Again began to interrogate and screaming bad words. Mom sat crying. He yelled at her. He banged on the table, came up to her and grabbed her by the hand. He grabbed her very hard and started yelling a sign. I feel bad. Everything happened with such psychological pressure that he brought my daughter to a state of asthma attack. I asked to call an ambulance. As she rolled her eyes and became ill, she began to cough. He laughed and said, "You see how bad your daughter is. This you are to blame for the fact that your daughters are bad, so if you don't sign now, then look, maybe she's going to die now and it's your foul." Quote. Under pressure I had to sign papers, but the story didn't end there. After a while the victim's daughter began to receive threats. Messages, threats, calls about that if we apply somewhere, in some services, we will be very bad. He came to our home, began to beat on the door. Neighbors were witnesses. Open the door. ... I screams and smokes right into the slot where the key is inserted into the well. From there a stream of smoke comes. But in fact, all this is a heinous lie, because the prosecutor of the Central District of Minsk, Dmitry Krupko, did not find any violations in the actions of the police officer, and therefore is it possible SHT to thank the police for professional methods of solving crimes. Thanks. But between the disclosure of extra crimes, the Belarusian police have to work on trifles, draw up protocols for the creation of a documentary film, to the walls of musicians and look for prohibited reposts in social networks. So, man, stop filming. I am not allowed to take pictures. I forbid you to make video filming. By the way, for some reason, cameras and valiant honest policemen are afraid, but when they don't know about shooting they become very talkative. So one blogger in a video chat accidentally caught a police officer from Belarus. You work at the Zovod before or as a carrier or as a builder, right? I am fucking youngsters. You mean you fucking? Well, I work in the juvenile police department. Well, a fucking cop, garbage, or whatever is convenient for. You have at least etiquette. For the fuck, this is my life priority. I just state the facts. Most people when expressing their free opinion in the comments, on the street, on the internet, they say that most of the police are the most terrible people, only those who were humiliated at school. To the police to study, and so on. How do you feel about this? You fucking, but I totally agree with that, yes. There are no normal people there. And have you heard about such that really innocent people are squeezed just on purpose? I will surprise you and say more than that, only innocent people are sitting well. Not only probably well, in the vast majority. Now, even knowing your address, you can come to your house, knock the chair out from under you and that's it. And accuse you of possession of any drugs and you will say odd bye to your mother. This system was not born to help. She was born so that you produce something, pay some taxes. And so that this system exists and gives you a bum every day if you're a gui somewhere. This is a blow to the whole system. If you suddenly find yourself in such a situation where you will need to communicate with law enforcement agencies, you better not communicate and just keep quiet, you can sign. Because they will twist your fingers there, well, God forbid, you will get into this situation. Just do not make yourself worse. Do not swear, do not communicate. They just want to hammer you, they will make up some kind of business, they will throw you into a cell for 2 days and in general you will not be threatened. But if you start chatting, they will tear out your tongue, make a swallow, walk along the spine, pee your head. If you didn't sign it and fuck it, they'll hit you in the kidneys, drag you to the toy and just wash your head off. Until you fucking cry and break, it's even disgusting to tell. And they can kill? They will not kill, they can only cripple, they can only kill if they resist. They will put a knife in your hand and make you do something to kill. No, lower it, break something, ruin your fucking heya, so that you get into the second or first group of disabilities. This is easily and it will not be punishable for the one who committed it. And as a confirmation of these words, the militiaman threatening to take the teenager out of the city because the guards of the store called the militia too often. Will you take me to Volkovichi? For what? Because you are bothering me here for the second time. The lawlessness is serious. The residents of Orsha won a court case against the police. They were able to prove that they did not ensue the police officers and did not show them disobedience during the arrest, only thanks to the recording from the CCTV camera. There was a brutal detention. The men were doused with gas and handcuffed, taken to the department. The bride and groom, beaten, spent the night at the car wash. Despite this, none of the employees was punished or even apologized. In Orsha, this is not the only case. Serious chaos is going on. Riot eyewitnesses, but the conflict between Vedab residents and riot police officers did not end. 10 checks and 10 refusals for an obvious violation, a broken arm, 18 abrasions for 17 bruises, a broken phone butt. Employees not GUI. Strangely, the riot police had no video or other evidence. Moreover, for the fact that the young people complained about the actions of law enforcement officers, they were thrown behind bars on a completely different matter. Another participant in the conflict was later beaten in a cafe, forcing him to ask for forgiveness that he had filed a statement. No one was punished for this either. Children in a school near Kobrin rolled their fingers without the knowledge of their parents. After a series of thefts and penetrations, the police arrived at the village school and, without the knowledge of their parents, took fingerprints from children of 11 to 15 years old. It turns out that criminals first covered the village, and then they arrived at our law enforcement agencies. Covered us and took our children, one of the local men says in an interview with Tut.by. And about the fans. More than once this category of people most often encounters law enforcement officers, often. Fans leave the sector and because of the actions of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, they do not miss drums, stretch marks unfold. Fans for national symbols, how this is only encouraged all over the world, but it's not a pity. When their fans Zenit St. Petersburg came to Belarus, they are not detained, and accompanied. No one share unauthorized Belarus will not take place in the country. And if it does, it will be suppressed very quickly, effectively, on the basis of the existing legislation. Is this not double standards? Is it not a contradiction? They are also experimenting with fans, driving cadets of the Academy of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and volunteers to train for the European Games. That will be held in Minsk next summer. By the way, during the Games, the police promised not to fine those who drink, but on May 9 they will sing and detain for being in an alcoholic state in their yard. This is how it was last year, that is. Since we have a lot of police, there will be enough strikes and protocols for everyone. For Exel, the capital's riot police for some reason detains almost hundreds of people in the Zhdanovichi market. And the protocols were apparently invented on the. Some were charged with drinking alcohol, and some petty hooliganism, and some even disobedience to the police. Half were simply released. In addition, 71 road users were brought to administrative responsibility by the traffic police. But the traffic police are generally a separate topic. In pursuit of protocols, employees are ready for anything. Here is Gomel, a tow truck in which a traffic cop is in a hurry to the parking lot in order to quickly in search of a new victim, but a simple pedestrian becomes the victim as a resu. Quite often, the police themselves get into accidents. Here is an accident in Gomel, but in Brest, the photos were taken with a difference of only a couple of days. A month a police car hit a passerby at a pedestrian crossing in Pinsk. I rammed the windshield with my head, tore my coat, smashed the player, tore the headphones. The phone was covered in blood, 4 stitches on my head. Whether the employee was punished is not reported and is unlikely to be reported. There may be some reason that they think that they are allowed to do it, that they can get away with it, they fade the power, that they are the most important thing in this life. That's why it happens in life. In Grodno, a police officer at a pedestrian crossing knocked down a teenager who was riding a bicycle, and did not incur any punishment for this. However, the cyclist was obliged to dismount at the crossing. Despite this, the driver should always give an advantage to those who are at the pedestrian crossing. If the heroes of this situation change roles, then the policeman would still be right in the situation. The teenager believes. And again Grodno, though in this situation the consequences could be much more dire. A resident of the city crossed the street at a pedestrian crossing at a green traffic light. However, an official cortege appeared out of nowhere. Please note that the traffic police drove on red without flashing beacons, and this is a very serious violation. Guess if anyone was responsible for this incident? And in Mogilev at high speed they shot down the dog. They were GUI. Who do you think? Owners of the animal. They were dealt with on the spot for 3 hours. How before that the employees were already in a hurry. By the way, the information about the incident was sent by the subscriber in the summaries. Nothing of that. Podpishik v Svodka Nisko Adago net. Kak ne bilo v Svodka Kogda to Milicionera, Kodorij. As there was no time in the reports of a policeman who stole $270,000 directly from the publication of the Gubo pic of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and then fled to Ukraine. The public learned about this case only thanks to the openness of the Ukrainian judicial system. Nasi Slaviki poslali zapros kolegam. A skolko taki slukayev prosto ne vyhodet zasteni. Our security officials sent a request to their colleagues. And how many such cases simply do not beyond the walls of the Belarusian system? And here is the recent accident involving the car of the elite special forces of the traffic police Arrow. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The city will continue to be closed during rush hours for the sake of travel of 1, 2, 3 members, and further accidents will occur. And there are dozens, if not hundreds of such cases, daily. You are obliged to explain everything. My rights and responsibilities are all that relates to. Young man, I don't have to. Gone are the days when you will not make it clear from the inspectors. Instead of ensuring safety, you stopped me in the deceleration lane on exit from the overpass. Why are you committing this violation? What is the violation? It's atmosphere in Svetlers. The head of the local traffic police detained drunk at the wheel of the head of the local LTP. For obvious reasons, official information on incident no. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is not shy about cutting public money. The security department placed a tender for hammocks for transporting service dogs in car trunks. Right in the docks. Procurement is a bold hint of where the department is aimed to buy. In the requirements for the material is indicated trend.by white printed label. And trend.by is one of the manufacturers. Hammocks for dogs. The Department of Security is aimed to purchase 519 hammocks for dogs for $65,000. It turns out to be $135 for one hammock, but trend.by offers the same. Half the price. Please note, most of the events announced in the video took place recently. Someone will ask, when will these police, bureaucratic outrages finally end? The answer is simple. Never under the current vermin. Yes, not a single European country has such a. It is impossible to imagine. For every crime against the person there will be justly condemned and deprived of the right in the future to occupy leadership positions, not to mention the police, which simply supports observance of order at protest actions so that none of the protesters is hurt, and those who in the comments leaves links to the dispersal of demonstrations with water cannons in Western countries. While there is not enough sense to understand that the authorities are protecting the city from armed with stones and aggressive people who break the glass, break and destroy everything that comes to hand, in our country they beat the unarmed. Belarusians have not felt protected from the arbitrariness of the authorities for a long time, but how many times have they not tried? To make a herd of obedient rams out of us does not come out in any way. Belarus is a country for life. Truth always wins, and an example of this is our last victory in the war against state television. The Nexta channel got rid of all BT strikes. But the police do not intend to surrender and are confidently bending their line. Minister Ir Shunovich is delighted with the experiment with the collective farm for prisoners. Well, labor freeze and Lukashenko does not like parasites. However, he is outraged by the actions of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, though not outraged. Coercion and corruption, and the fact that convicted officials are corrupt too quickly lead to freedom. I saw this loophole. We sent them to prison for bribes, and for OD behavior Shunovich released tomorrow. True, Lukashenko personally pardoned all the corrupt officials who were released. But that's not the point. Looks like autumn for the Minister of Internal Affairs really did not work out. What can at least the favorite form of the NKVD warm and inspire hope in a bright future, and perhaps the sculpture of the Tsarist policeman, who is guarded by the entire city police, will help to cheer up. Like a Koshchei igloo, better than their own citizens. Apply one blow to the Minsk city officer, after which detain this offender. The monument cannot be kissed. You cannot hang a scarf on it and lay flowers on it. There would be a person, but there's an article. The activists were kept behind bars overnight, after which each was fined $350 for disorderly conduct.
решеткой, после чего каждого оштрафовали на $350 за хулиганство.
But the sculpture can be hugged, and cry. Everyone chooses himself. Wants to pay a fine? Well, hug, take pictures.
Зато скульптурку можно обнять и плакать.
And here is the teenager who gave the monument a slap in the face, forced to apologize, and even drew up a protocol. It was detained this offender. Interrogated, drew up a protocol and handed over to the employees of the Moscow Police Department of the city of Minsk.
Который дал памятнику пощечину, заставили извиниться и даже составили протокол.
Задержали данного правонарушителя, опросили, составили протокол и передали сотрудникам Московского РУВД города Минска.
I am sincerely sorry for what I have caused harm to this monument and police officers, because this monument my own history, and I could somehow pollute it by my act. However, common sense is still won. The press secretary who came up with all this PR nonsense was fired. Administrative. The case against the teenager was dropped for lack of corpus delicti.
Однако здравый смысл все же победил. Пресс-секретаря, который...
Improving the image of the Ministry of the Interior. It is not reported whether any of the policemen apologized to the teenager, but they say that they can.
за отсутствием состава правонарушения.
By the way, this is not all the blows in the gut. A lot just did not fit into one video.
Был ли кто-то из милиционеров перед...
Don't miss the next episodes. Friends, in the current scenario of your activity, we will gain 500,000 subscribers only in 2021, and after all, subscribe to the channel and subscribe a friend to it.
Многое просто не вместилось
A matter of a couple of seconds. Thank you for watching. Put your thumbs up and send the video to your friends. No one is you.
в активности.
For this he will not jail. Lukashenko promised.
2021. А ведь подписаться на канал и подписать на него друга дело пары секунд.
How I am with such authoritarian manners. I understand perfectly well that you cannot close your mouth to a person. Until next time, and OD news to you.
Хоть я с такими авторитарными замашками человек, я это не отрицаю, но я прекрасно понимаю, что закрывать рот человеку нельзя.
До новых встреч и хороших вам новостей.
Мертвая хватка, точный прицел. Браво, милиция, браво. Если в борьбу вступил офицер, в мире ему нету равных. Если в борьбу вступил офицер, в мире ему нету равных.
Вот так вот.